Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And to quote the great Bruce Buffer, we're live on the SIN YouTube page for the 2023 season kickoff of the Sunday Sideline Report here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike Rifkin, the old ops guy, Danny Boy Reginald, gentlemen, welcome to the 2023 NFL season.
Baruch Tov and Manishma. Football is here, baby.
Did you really get that translated into?
No, that means good morning. Good morning. What's going on in Hebrew? That's all.
Dan, good morning, my friend. How are you?
All good. Obviously I have to do the dreaded wait till Monday night for this stuff, but I'm wasting no time. As of today, I'm gonna post a new profile picture on all my socials. So it's just
psyched for that.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's time. But no, I am stoked, and I can't wait for the NFL season. We got a massive slate today, Rifkin and Olap's guy.
We do have a massive slate. We'll dive into it. We'll dive into what happened Thursday night as well. But Dan, I'm coming back to you because you said you're ready, and you're ready for Monday night. But you look like you're more ready for Seattle Kraken hockey to come back.
Yeah, I know.
That's all
I'm being conservative with my jet gear because I want to wait till Monday to show off, and then I want to wait till Tuesday in case they win. So
no, makes total sense. I'm not going to deny you that.
But in the meantime, Seattle is going to get some love, and I hope they make the Stanley Cup this time. So it's like,
Yeah, listen, great year last year, but we're not going to talk hockey, unfortunately, right, Mark?
Oh, well, when you can't pronounce half the players who skate on the ice, yeah, it's not a sport that I really get into.
By the way, Olap's guy,
sir,
would like to thank you, as this program here is sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood, and we appreciate that you have now sponsored 2 of our programs. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that you're still a part of this network family. We couldn't have life without you.
Nah, it wouldn't be fun without you guys. So
his company's called the Dugout of Millwood because he's a big Kevin Millwood supporter.
Who's Kevin Millwood?
Do you really not? Kevin Millwood used to be a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves with Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz.
Oh, God. That old guy. Okay. Not as stupid as I look.
I'm shocked I put a baseball guy over on you. I'm very surprised by that. All right. But we will dive in to the NFL slate. We'll get into the games in a few minutes. But we had a lot of movement this offseason, player movement, as we do every year. But one of the biggest things that happened, and it's why Dan and most Jet fans are excited, is they got a new quarterback. And while Patchman may have only seen this halfway coming or not, Dan, Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. Your gut feeling on this, how do you feel coming into the season?
Well, I still have lots of concerns. I am concerned that he's 39. You as much as these NFL players can continue to act like they're invincible and that they can do no wrong, nothing wrong could happen to them. The bottom line is age does factor into how you perform. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to have a bad year. I hope he doesn't have a bad year. I want him to have a great year. But you can't ignore the age. It is a massive factor. Whether you like it or not, it is a factor. That is number one for me. So I don't know what type of year I don't know what type of Aaron Rodgers we're going to get. I don't know what type of year he's going to have. So in the back of my mind, I'm very cautious, but I want him to do well. I want the Jets to win, and I can't wait to root for him on Monday night and stuff. Now, the funny thing is, we're talking about how the Jets ultimately went after Aaron Rodgers. We got reports here that if it wasn't Aaron Rodgers, it was going to be Matt Stafford. Now, I couldn't believe that. I was like, Matt Stafford, like that was not even a part of any conversation whatsoever and stuff during the offseason. But can you imagine Matt Stafford in a Jet uniform? That would be kind of weird.
Yeah, that would be kind of. And this is not to disrespect Matthew Stafford in any way, shape, or form because he's a tremendous quarterback. I'm still a little stunned he's playing. I thought once he won the Super Bowl, he would have considered hanging it up and just say, I proved the doubters wrong. I've won one. See you later.
Yeah. So that would have been weird. But Rodgers is a Jet. I like the team they have it. I don't love the team that they put out there. I still have lots of concerns about the offensive line. We don't know who we know that Garrett Wilson's going to be the number one wide receiver. How he's going to perform as the top receiver is still in question. And then running game, still a question. We don't know how many touches Breece Hall is going to get. You would assume that Dalvin Cook is going to get the majority of those touches, and rightfully so. You want Breece to build up his strength back as great as he's had in camp the last couple of weeks. You still want him to build up because he just came off a major knee tear. So you don't want to rush him back so quickly. So, yeah, no, there's a lot of concerns there. A lot of concerns with the running game. Lots of concerns with the receiving game. Lots of concerns with the offensive line. Rodgers at times, if you were watching Hard Knocks, very, very, very frustrated with the offense and how it's moving. And while I know it's training camp, they're still trying to learn the kinks stuff. It's now week 1. So we have to be ready to go. And if there's some signs of trouble, as I should say, that's something that, we should really pay attention to as the season goes on.
All right, Mark, let me flip this the other way. Because every year we talk about the Green Bay Packers as a team that's a kind of a Super Bowl contender because they have Aaron Rodgers. Now Aaron Rodgers is gone. Tom Brady is finally retired until he plays for the Raiders at some point this year. That's a whole nother conversation. But it kind of opens things up in the NFC, which is kind of, I want to say, it's not as deep as the AFC.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to the New York Jets organization for getting Aaron Rodgers out and making it easier for us to get past the divisional game. That being said, Roger Goodell could suck it that Aaron Rodgers is playing Dallas in week 2. So that really doesn't bode well for me. However, that being said, you have Jordan Love now taking over in Green Bay. The NFC North is a much weaker division than once was. So I don't expect Green Bay to do $1. I think we saw the NFC North champion play the other night, and we'll get in that later. The NFC is not as deep as I agree with you, Mike, there. You have a good handful of teams between San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas. It's really, I can't really pick anybody from the NFC South right now until they play. I think the team with the most pressure behind them are the Giants because of what they, did with Daniel Jones. But truly, I think the NFC is really going to come down to really just about 5 teams who are going to face each other throughout this season. And we're going to get a quick preview of what the playoffs are going to look like. So I think the NFC, is definitely a little bit weaker now that Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay.
And it could open up the door for a young team to step in, maybe a team from Detroit, because we know the season kicked off Thursday night, and that game saw the Detroit Lions go into Kansas City and beat the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 21-20. Jared Goff, 22 of 35 for 253 yards and a touchdown. David Montgomery had a rushing touchdown. Flip side of Patrick Mahomes, 21 of 39, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He also had 45 yards rushing. Before we dive into the game itself, I do want to make one comment. I believe it was Mike Tirico on the broadcast said you could put an asterisk next to, because Travis Kelce and Chris Jones both did not play for the Chiefs. There is no such thing as an asterisk in the NFL. You can't put it against any team at any point. So the fact that you would put it out there, no, this is a great win by the Lions. Really their second consecutive great win, because they're the team last year in week 17 or week 18 or week 17 who knocked the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs with a win at Lambeau Field. So, Mark, the Lions are off to the Lions are off to a roaring start.
Exactly. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm covering the Lions and the Blitzers, and let me tell you, from last year, watching what they did going down the stretch and watching what that defense did, you could see the building of a great team coming towards almost near playoff last year. Now we're talking this year. I don't care. Like Mike said, there are no asterisks in football, and that there's a reason. There's a reason there's injury report in football. Okay. It tells you who's not going to play. Kelce was a huge loss for KC, but it's not one player that wins a game. There were many mistakes on the KC side, but when you look at the Lions side, they did something they didn't do last year, and that was put over 100 yards on the ground between Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery. Both of them complemented each other very, very nice. David Montgomery did get the fair share with 21 carries, but Jamar Gibbs really let his name be seen and known that this is a great dual running back threat in the NFL right now. The combination of Josh Reynolds and Amon St. Brown was very good. Goff was almost near perfect. Okay. Yeah, he had 13 incomplete passes. He didn't throw a pick, and a lot of his passes were on targets. There were a few drop passes, but as we talked about before, there was one player who deserves the player of the game for the Detroit Lions, and his name is Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. 3 drops and one led to a pick 6 for Toney or for the Lions. Brian Branch, rookie out of Alabama, so he was not good. Dan, your overall thoughts on the game Thursday night?
So, what I thought about this game is this, and I want to make things very clear that yes, Kansas City losing Travis Kelce, the Chris Jones holdout were major factors into the game that cannot be ignored, and anyone who tries to ignore it doesn't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They still were in disarray all night. Not only was Kadarius Toney bad, the running game was bad. Defense was okay. They held them 21. They held Lions 21 points. It was a low-scoring game. But the defense had all sorts of issues as well. Running game had all sorts of issues. Andy Reid was not good coaching-wise either. He had, when the Chiefs decided they had the ball, there was 4th down, they had 3 timeouts, 2-minute warning. They decided to go for it on 4th down in like 20, and they didn't convert. Now, obviously, you can always get a stop and get the ball back about minute 11, maybe no timeouts, and Mahomes can do his magic. But wouldn't it be better to punt the football and, have your defense like make stops and then have ball in better field position, all that stuff? I didn't quite understand that coaching method there. I thought that was a brain fart by Andy Reid. So all over the place, the Chiefs were just not good. They were not in sync at all. And I think the losing Travis Kelce was major because they changed up their game plan. And the Lions, while they weren't perfect either, they have many flaws in that team as well. They took advantage of really poor decision making by the Chiefs last night. And they were able to make the big plays. They had the big scores. And ultimately, this team looks like more put together than any time in the Lions' history, or at least in the modern era, the past like 20 years or so.
Mm. I agree with what you said on the 4th and 25 play, because you can go for it in that spot on one condition. You have receivers who are trustworthy, who could get to the ball. Because other than that, you're like Bon Jovi. You're living on a prayer, at that point. So you could have punted the ball with the 2-minute warning and the 3 timeouts. The thing I come back to, and this is something that's been highly discussed at length multiple occasions, the Chiefs need at wide receiver. And I know they traded Tyreek Hill last year to the Dolphins, and they've never replaced him, and they won the Super Bowl last year. And I've always thought Travis Kelce's the most indispensable guy on that team. But when you know he's not playing, you have to figure out ways to get other guys involved. Dan, you're right. They did not run the ball well at all. There were several times I thought the screen game was effective for them, but they didn't stick with it. But Kadarius Toney, 3 drops. Sky Moore gets 1 carry, and as someone who's a Sky Moore fantasy owner will tell you, we were thinking he'd get the ball a little bit more just based on the fact of what else is there. Valdez-Scantling, a couple of catches. There's not a guy in that grouping that could say, I fear that guy.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce's the guy everyone fears. So I think the Chiefs missed an opportunity this offseason when a guy named DeAndre Hopkins was available. And listen, I know the Titans paid him, but if you just said, listen, sign a 1-year deal and you could win a ring with Mahomes, I got to think that would have been the smart play for both sides. But that was impactful. I thought the Lions, they out physical played the Chiefs. Their offensive line, protected Jared Goff well. They were able to run the ball effectively. Defensively, they were in Mahomes' face all night. Mahomes' legs were the best part of the Chiefs' offense. I mean, when he was scrambling and being mobile, that was the best part of the Chiefs' offense. Outside of that, it really struggled. So the Lions moved to 1-0. The Chiefs are 0-1. We'll see what happens next week, as they'll have 10 days to get Travis Kelce healthy, and who knows if they get Chris Jones back or not with his holdout going on. All right. That leads us into today's slate, the first Sunday. You could smell it in the air.
Hi, Felicia. Once in a while, I have a.
I don't know where to go with that, but okay. All right. I really don't know where to go with that, but we have a full slate today. We'll look into each game, and then we'll discuss it. You know what? Because you know what? Let's start with a big one in the AFC North, because you got the Battle of Ohio to open up week one. You got the Bengals, who just signed Joe Burrow to a record-setting contract. Which, listen, I will say this: it's a very well-deserved contract, but I wish they had waited.
Yeah.
Mainly because I wanted him to play with that chip on his shoulder. The Burrow contract is, I'm getting it from Adam Schefter now. It's 5 years, $275 million, which is $13.5 million more than what the Chargers just paid Justin Herbert.
This is no longer of a game of sport. This is, I can one up the other guy on a contract.
Mm-hmm. And when you listen, if you're a quarterback that's just up at the end of a year, you're going to say, I want to be the highest paid. And most of the time, teams will pay you if they think you're worth it. No disrespect to the guy on the other side. Deshaun Watson got basically a fully guaranteed contract while being investigated for, what he was investigated for, sexual assault. So, but Dan, your thoughts here on the Burrow contract?
I said this on SIP, which is going to be released soon. Sorry, it's not released already. That's on me. But you're also going to hear me say this: if there is mutual interest and it was done, why not get it done now? If Joe Burrow likes it in Cincinnati and Cincinnati loves Joe Burrow, there should be no reason why you have to, stretch this out to the next offseason. If you can get it done now, get it done. Lock him up. He'll be a Bengal. I wouldn't say for life, because, he can still become a free agent and then go elsewhere.
Yeah, now he's signed through 2029.
So it which obviously still gives him a big career outside of Cincinnati. But, you want him to be a Bengal for a long time. So this is their way of saying, we like what you do. We want to be committed. Are you committed? And are you committed at this price? And they said yes. And that's just how it went. So I have no issue with it. I get the whole playing with the chip on his shoulder, wanting him to earn that contract.
Oh, no. Let me rephrase it. He's earned every penny he's got.
Yeah.
My point on the chip was just, I owed him in a couple of fantasy leagues, so I didn't want him getting hurt after he signed it.
Yeah, I get you.
It was selfish from my point of view.
No, it was the right move to make, and I'm glad Cincinnati's saying no. We're gonna keep our team the way it is, and we're gonna go for Super Bowls, many Super Bowls.
Mark, your thoughts on the Burrow contract?
Look, I want to start it off with a question to you, Mike, and I just want a quick answer.
Sure.
Today's money, but now we're in 1984. How much does Dan Marino get?
Today's money, he would be the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to get at here. Every quarterback is becoming the highest paid quarterback after somebody else gets paid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to point out one thing. There's no Super Bowl ring on this guy's finger yet. There's no Super Bowl ring on Kyler Murray. There's no Super Bowl ring on Justin Herbert. They're all very capable of winning a Super Bowl with the teams they have. My problem is not saying he's not talented enough. He doesn't deserve to be paid. My problem is handing out that type of money when you haven't won the big thing yet. And that's just me as being a player. Now let's go at the standpoint of what Joe Burrow is. He is one of the best quarterbacks to step on the field this season. He's got a wide receiver crew of Chase Higgins and Boyd that is probably top 5 in the league. You got Joe Mixon, who had a great resurgence year last year. So, yeah, I would say the Bengals have the right team on the field to go far. They'll have a little competition, obviously, when we get to the playoffs between Buffalo. I expect the Jets to be there. Obviously, KC should be there, but not unless they're doing what they're doing now. I just would rather see somebody get paid like that when they have a championship on their hand. I understand the reasoning. It's just my point of just not handing out that type of money until you've won something.
I get where you're coming from. I guess my counterpoint would be my couple of counterpoints would be he has gone to a Super Bowl. Although he did not win, he did not lose the Super Bowl for them. That was Mark Apple.
Yeah.
But I think the other part for me is this has been a franchise. It's the Cincinnati Bengals that has been stuck in mediocrity for years. And I could just say one word or two words on it. Marvin Lewis was the coach for 17 years. I mean, no, not a knock on Marvin Lewis, but at some point, that team just fell flat. So now they have the quarterback. So they got him locked up. They probably haven't had a franchise quarterback in reality since Carson Palmer.
Oh, I was going to go back to Boomer.
but Carson Palmer in his heyday was pretty good.
Sure was.
But now you have to show you're committed to Joe Burrow, not just by signing Joe Burrow, but you have to get T. Higgins done. You have to get Chase done. And eventually it wears thin and not everyone can get signed. So you're going to have to pick and choose your battles there. Same thing's going to happen with the Chargers, with the Herbert contract that's going to kick in. You can have as good of a roster as you want. But now it becomes, okay, well, I've just paid Herbert, so I have to cut a Khalil Mack, or I have to do this. You're going to have to pick and choose where you go. But I think for me, Liz, I'm on the record. I said it on Wishbone. I said it Thursday night. I think Joe Burrow is going to win the MVP of the league this year. I have a very high expectation for the Bengals this season. And he's that guy. In my opinion, he's that guy. Like, if I can't have Mahomes, that's the guy I want leading my team. He's got this calmness, this coolness. I still can't get over the fact after the national title game, him in a locker room just smoking a cigar, So there's that. So Joe Burrow, I'm in. Other side of the ball, Cleveland, really quick, and then we'll dive into the other games. Deshaun Watson's back, full year. Nothing's hanging over his head. Mark, to me, I think Cleveland's one of those teams that is kind of flying a little bit under the radar in the AFC.
The Dog Pound will definitely be happy this year, as I do expect Cleveland to do a lot better than they did last year. Their defense has not changed since last year, so they do have a top 10 defense. My issue is Deshaun Watson, didn't look excellent, but didn't look poor last year. The question is, can he get the ball to Amari Cooper, who is obviously the number one on that team? I mean, there is nobody else who can be the number one right now. But he's got to be able to get the ball spread around, and they have to give him time. Mind you, yes, we know Deshaun can run the ball, so that's going to be a factor. But the player of this game I'm looking to be will be Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is going to be the control of this game, and it's going to help set the pace. And I'm sorry, Nick Chubb. I was doing the wrong thing. Nick Chubb for Cleveland. It's going to be the highlight for Cleveland. It's going to set the base. My fault.
Dan, your thoughts here on Cleveland?
Cleveland is so under the radar. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to have a great season. I mean, Deshaun, he hasn't played much in the last few years. but that doesn't mean that he won't be great. I think he'll be phenomenal. He's healthy, he's hungry, ready to shut up the naysayers. And the Browns have a good team. Like, they have a really good receiving core. They have playmakers on offense and defense that could really, really put up a lot of points, and they're going to be really dangerous.
Yeah, I think they're the one team in the AFC not enough people are talking about. Like, a lot of people are giving love to certain other teams I don't think have earned it. And Cleveland, I think they've earned it. You know, Myles Garrett, company on defense, Chubb. You can make the case Chubb's been the second best running back since he's come into the league behind Derrick Henry. I mentioned Watson, Amari Cooper, David Njoku. So he's going to have the weapons. So keeping in the AFC North, one of those teams receiving a lot of hype are the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, let's just say this about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get a test early when the 49ers come into Pittsburgh this afternoon. And the 49ers will have their full complement because they may nick Bosa, the highest paid defensive player in the league this week. Mark, Niners, Steelers, wherever you want to take it.
Just to build off Mike, Nick Bosa got 5'1", I mean, one of the best defensive players in football. So, it's hard to say whatever. The question is it going to be a Purdy day? That's what's going to be the big issue for San Francisco, as San Francisco has made the worst return on investment in rookies in such a long time. Being said, they traded, which I'm very happy to have, Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. There is really no quarterback depth chart in San Francisco. They're really relying on Purdy. Now, you have a mediocre running game. Yeah, no. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have the best running back in football. And yes, I'm saying that over everybody else. He's the most diversified. He's the most electric. And I think he is going to have a huge day because Pittsburgh is going to try and contain Purdy, because Purdy, if he gets to the outside, has a good arm and can really range the ball out. And when you have Debo up and Brandon Ayuk on the bottom, and George Kittle will be playing today, I don't know how much he'll be used, or he'll be used as a decoy because he is dealing with that ankle injury. But San Francisco, is now going up against a young, hungry Pittsburgh Steelers team. You got Kenny. I'm putting up the white fence picket. I had to try to do a Mike impression, to be able to get the ball out there. I'm not too thrilled on the Pittsburgh running game, but I think they have the receivers to be able to do damage. I think Pittsburgh is going to rely more on their defense this year, as their defense has always been good. And I look for Mike Tomlin to have another winning season to bring it to 21 straight years. A final in this game, I'm going to give it to Pittsburgh, 24-17.
And
Pittsburgh, I mean, I'm thinking about this for a second.
okay.
Well, I love the number that they're getting, by the way, Pittsburgh. But San Francisco, to me, is, I feel like while it can be a trap game for them, they won't be phased. I think they'll win this game, and they'll go to 1-0. And I think that, the 49ers they're going to make a Super Bowl statement sometime this season. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I like San Francisco in this game.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. I like San Francisco. You want to see Kenny, if you're Pittsburgh, you want to see Kenny Pickett taking the next step. The unfortunate part is not against this defense. As much as they've lost when they lost to D'Amico Ryans, who became the head coach of the Houston Texans, they have so much talent. Nick Bosa was just mentioned. He just got paid. They brought in Javon Hargrave from Philadelphia. Then you add in Eric Armstead. Fred Warner might be the best middle linebacker in all football.
Well, sorry.
You know, and then, Mark, you brought up offensively. You have McCaffrey, then you have Debo, then you have Ayuk, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings then comes into play. I mean, they have a plethora of weapons here in San Francisco. It's Brock's got some pretty good toys to play with. And then on top of it, he doesn't even have to be pretty perfect because the defense will help him. And I'm with Dan. I like San Francisco today. I'm with Dan again. I do think they're the favorite in the NFC. I really do. I think they're that good. Just so we could wrap a ball in the AFC North, the Ravens, who signed Lamar Jackson to a 5-year contract, they'll host the Texans in their season opener. By the way, I would have loved Baltimore today, betting-wise, if the number was not 10.
Yeah.
If the number was not 10, I would have
it.
loved the Ravens.
I took it.
Now, there were other numbers that I liked more. It was just like 10 was a little big for me. But, Mark, what are you expecting from Lamar and under his new contract?
Lamar Jackson got what he wanted. He got paid. Good. Lamar Jackson now has a wide receiver crew that he can work with, especially, and this gut wrenching me even mentioning his name, Odell Beckham Jr. Everybody's predicting Odell to have a quiet first day. No, he's going to be out there to make a statement. Look for Odell not only to have a rushing touchdown, but a receiving touchdown. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him throw one as well. I think Baltimore is out to make a statement this year. I think they are very, very underestimated offensively. Defensively, they've always been a good team. They just need to lock up the rushing defense a little bit more. I think they will be a big contender. I look for a massive blowout in Houston today, 35-3.
All right. Dan?
So Baltimore, Houston, you're saying?
Baltimore, Houston.
I have Baltimore. It's a rout, 40-17. Baltimore wins. Houston, I think, will have a lot of growing pains, and this is good for Houston. Young quarterback, rookie head coach, young team. They will surprise you this season. I think they will come up with some big victories. They will be a thorn up the you-know-what in the AFC for sure. But I think that this Baltimore team is too dangerous to in my opinion, to beat right now. So I think it will be Baltimore that wins.
Yeah, I think Houston's trending forward. But this is not going to be easy. It's a welcome to the NFL moment for CJ Stroud and company. Baltimore and Lamar gets to celebrate with a new offense and a new contract. I think the Ravens are going to be just fine. Since we talked Texans, we'll stay in the AFC South because today we got the Colts and the Jags. And this is from Sports Illustrated. Anthony Richardson will become the 7th different quarterback to start opening day for the Colts in the past 7 seasons. In order, this is how it goes. 2017, Scott Tolzien. 2018, Andrew Luck. 2019, Jacoby Brissett. 2020, Phillip Rivers and his 12 kids. 2021, Carson Wentz. Last year, Matt Ryan. And this year, as mentioned, Anthony Richardson. Mark, have the Colts figured out a solution to the quarterback position with Anthony Richardson?
Can just laugh at those of that list. The joke on it all was Carson Wentz, but Anthony Richardson got an opportunity to do something that the Colts apparently have been doing every year for the last year, and that is to remain as a starting quarterback going for years forward. I think he's a very talented young kid. I think he's got a lot of potential. Like the Houston Texans, there's going to be a huge learning curve for them because as they're all playing really for the first time together all year, Jonathan Taylor's situation doesn't make it easier. It's just going to put a little bit more pressure. But you're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are just so strong. And this is a tough first outing for a rookie ball club. And I hate to use for Indianapolis rookie because there are plenty of stars on that team, but they are one of the youngest teams in the league. Jacksonville with Sunshine, ETN, and the receivers he has, it's going to be a massive blowout. Jacksonville 42-10.
I want to go back on something you said, and then we'll move on. Let's hit on the Jonathan Taylor thing for a second. Because, Jonathan Taylor requested a trade. The Colts didn't accommodate it. He's on the PUP list. He's going to miss the first 4 games. Ian Rappaport said this morning he expects those talks to pick up again as we inch closer to the trade deadline. If you're the Colts, are you better off just paying Jonathan Taylor? Or are you just like, okay, let's move on? Because here's the point. When Chris Ballard said when they didn't trade him, we won 4 games last year, and I might be taking this out of context a teeny tiny bit. It seems like you're throwing that at the feet of Jonathan Taylor is the reason why you won 4 games. But a lot of people know you haven't cared about the quarterback position in years. That's why you bring in a stopgap like a Matt Ryan.
And to answer your statement here, if I'm the Colts, you are revamping this team. Yes, Jonathan Taylor, top 3 running back in football. I'm not going to say he's not. He is not going to be willing to play for you. Even if contract talks get up to the trade deadline, then let's treat it like the New York Mets. Get what you can for him for next year. You can still probably easily get a first, a second, and then a second the following year for him. So if it comes to that, Indianapolis is already rebuilding. Why not get the compensation you can if the guy's not going to give you 100%?
Dan, if you want to hit the Jonathan Taylor situation, or if you want to just hit Jaguars Colts?
Real quick, I still think what the Colts are doing to Jonathan Taylor is unfair, and he does not deserve this. The Colts, as a franchise, they don't deserve to treat his players like this. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of distractions. Like this is not the time to do it. You're trying to change the culture. You're trying to build the culture. You can't have it with these types of distractions off the field. So, with that said, Jonathan Taylor is going to get traded at some point, and he's going to be a non-factor in this season. That's just my opinion. I don't think he's going to factor into anything. He's going to be gone, and the Colts are going to have to move on without him. In terms of what they're going to do today against the Jaguars, I do have them losing by 20. And I think it's time for Trevor Lawrence and company and Doug Peterson to really put a stamp. I don't want it to be a fluke for them in Jacksonville. I like what's going on over there. Put a stamp on it. Why not? Divisional game. Why not?
I like the Jags too today. I'll say this on the Jonathan Taylor situation. If you were that determined to get rid of him after you requested the trade and you're going to listen, you should just trade him and not let this hang over a rookie quarterback's head. You don't let it hang over the team's head. You acquire what you can, whatever assets you get, whether that's draft pick compensation, player compensation. Because if you're not willing to pay him, then why should other teams say, yeah, we'll give you this for him when it's clear as day you don't want to pay? So I think until he's actually moved, I do think it's kind of a distraction. And it's unfair to Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen, the first-year coach. As for the Jags, listen, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jags were in the AFC title game. I think they're that good.
Mhm.
Trevor Lawrence, listen, Dabo Sweeney owes his life to Trevor Lawrence because we see what he is without him. ETN, they're going to have Calvin Ridley for a whole year unless he's going to gamble again.
That's who I forgot. Thank you.
You're welcome. But then you're going with him, Kirk, Evan Ingram, who had a phenomenal year last year. So the Jags have the making of something special. So that's Jags Colts. We can put a bow on the AFC South when we talk Titans Saints. And I said this to Mark earlier. I'm not a believer in the Titans. I'm not. I'm more of a believer in the Teen Titans. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill. I don't trust the defense. The only part of this I trust is Derrick Henry. As for the other side, I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC South. And with Derek Carr and company, I think they can make the playoffs. I'm not going to say a playoff run, but I do think the Saints should win the NFC South, Mark.
Tennessee, like you said, we had talked about it quickly. Malik Willis is getting his first real chance to take a hold of this team. You got Derrick Henry. That's really your brightest spot. No offense to the rest of the Titans. Treylon Burks will definitely have a better year. I expect the Titans actually to take a step back as teams will be loading up against the box to stop Henry, even though that is a mammoth project to even take on, and make Malik Willis throw the ball. And if he can throw the ball as accurately as they say they can, then we'll see a different change. Flipping it over to the New Orleans Saints, Kamara out for the first few games. However, they now have a quarterback that, since Drew Brees has been gone, who can really air out the ball in Derek Carr. And with the return of Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, it's going to be a very fun season to watch New Orleans. But it's not going to be a very high-scoring game, as I think it's going to be small, but I have the Saints winning 17-14.
Dan?
Which game is this again? I'm sorry.
Titans Saints.
Titans Saints. I like the Saints in this one. You have Saints have a new quarterback in Derek Carr. And I feel like while the Titans are, they'll show you some good spots and show you a lot of flaws. The Saints also will show you that, but they are going to be more polished, in my opinion. It'll be like a close game. It'll be like a 5-point victory for the Saints. It won't be like a blowout. I don't expect that, but I do expect the Saints to win. Not only do I expect the Saints to win, I expect them to win that South Division. Yeah. That South Division is trash, bro.
Yeah. Two of those teams will play today. At the Panthers and the Falcons, and that means number 1 overall pick Bryce Young makes his debut. And Mark, these are two teams kind of in similar positions right now.
They are, they're both in a kind of I hate to use the word rebuilding, but basically it's what they are. They're starting with two very young teams. I think the New Orleans Saints made a great move in getting the quarterback they did, to be able to, let's say accurately, get the ball to two very, very accomplished receivers. The question is the defense going to give him enough time? I mean, sorry, not the defense. The offensive line going to give him enough time? Because route running is a science, and everything has to be in a perfect flux. If the Saints can maneuver and move around the ball, then absolutely.
What about the Panthers and the Falcons?
Dealing with the Panthers and the Falcons, I look at it as, you got Bryce Young starting. This is an all rookie ball matchup game. I am looking for big things out of Atlanta this year between Kyle Pitts, Drake London. You got Desmond Ritter, who's probably going to have one of the best seasons for a second-year quarterback in a long time. It's a young team, though. A lot of mistakes are going to be made. Flip it over to the other side. Sorry, 1 second. Bijan Robinson's going to have a good year. Flip it over to the other side. Carolina is working with the same type of thing. Rookie quarterback. They got some veterans to help out, but it's going to be a very huge learning curve for CJ Stroud this year. And we'll see. As this game comes to an end, I really had Atlanta winning 28-22. 28-21. Jesus Christ, I can't read numbers.
I like what Atlanta has, but they have to prove to me they're willing to use Kyle Pitts. They have to prove to me they're willing to use Drake London. Bijan will be used. I'm not worried about him. You flip side it to Carolina, and I like Bryce Young. I'm not necessarily sure what they're going to do at running back at this current moment. Receivers are okay, but I really like the other side of the ball. They didn't get Brian Burns locked up, but he's really good on the edge. They have 2 talented quarterbacks with J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson. Jeremy, not by the hair of my chinny chin at safety. And Frank Reich is a good coach. He proved that in Indy. So I kind of like Carolina to pull off the week 1 upset. Dan, Carolina and Atlanta.
So, interesting. I have Carolina. I mean, this is another little resume builder for Frank Reich and company. This is a team with another growing young squad and looking to really boost their offense, boost their defense. And I really believe that this team's going to blow out Atlanta. Atlanta is not a good team, in my honest opinion. And I'm looking at like an 18-19 point victory for Carolina today.
Wow. All right. We put a ball in the NFC South because the Bucs will go to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Tom Brady, no longer the quarterback in Tampa, which makes the people of Tampa very upset. Instead, they get progressive commercial legend Baker Mayfield. I'm going to say this, and this is not out of spite towards Baker Mayfield in any way, shape, or form. If Baker Mayfield does not play well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he might as well just say goodbye and retire, because I don't know if another team would give him another opportunity. Mark.
Well, as a backup,
oh, sorry, Dan.
He'll be a good backup. I see that from Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but you can, sign anyone to be a backup. I'm saying as a starter.
No, I feel you.
When
Mark?
looking at this matchup, Tampa Bay, in my opinion, is done. Mike Evans has already been requesting a trade, and I expect him to be traded by the trade deadline. That being said, there's not much really to talk about Tampa Bay. On the other side, you got Minnesota, who I don't understand it. Maybe it's just me, but how you let one of the best running backs in football leave in Dalvin Cook. Dalvin is now with the Jets. I wish him well. However, the wide receiver crew for Minnesota Vikings is something that I think we've all been waiting for a long time. Yes, it's Justin Jefferson and Addison this year. To me, it's like closing my eyes and putting Justin Jefferson and Randy Moss on the same field together. That's how dynamic I think these 2 receivers are going to be. Put TJ Hawkinson into the mix. Minnesota is going to win this game big time. However, that being said, teams are going to be watching and teams are going to figure it out fast. They're not going to allow it to be beaten. I do not expect Minnesota to go far today. Yes, 21-0 is the score of that game. Tampa Bay doesn't put a point on the board.
I want to flip to something you talked about, because one of the keys for Minnesota last year was they won a lot of one-score games. And we know that usually doesn't translate into the next season. So that's something else to keep in mind, too, if the Vikings do have some struggles early on. Dan, anything on Minnesota and Tampa?
So, I think Baker is going to go out there and put up a 20 spot. I don't know if it'll be 20 straight up or maybe a little more than that, but Minnesota's going to win the game. They'll score way more than them. And look, I still like the offense that Minnesota puts. They're just, to me, the big issue last year is that they were frauds. Defensively, offensively, they just, they weren't in sync at the end of the season. They'll be more in sync this time around. Full year with everybody. I like this Minnesota team. They'll win. But no, I think Baker, the offense is going to be a lot better than a lot of people think. At least this week. I'm down the road. I don't know, honestly. But this week, week 1, everyone's excited. I say score at least 20.
I'll say this, and Mark, you brought up the Evans point earlier. They couldn't come to terms on a contract extension. I just kind of wish once they had won the Super Bowl, or once Tom had announced he was retiring, they would have said, you know what, Mike Evans, thanks for everything. We're going to move you. Similar thing with maybe a Levante David. And it's just like we could start retooling this roster as we go forward, because we did get the ring that everyone coveted. So there's that for Tampa Bay. All right. So that covers the NFC South. I guess we could jump into the NFC North, because we've covered the Vikings, covered the Lions earlier. And one of the best rivalries in all of football continues. The oldest rivalry in all of football. Bears, Packers. Mark, I know you were around to see the first game between these two teams.
Okay, that was good. I'll even give you that. That was a good one.
But the Jordan Love era in Green Bay begins, Mark.
Yeah, there is going to be no love for Love in Green Bay. Sorry. I've watched the kid play last year, a couple of the whole team is gone. You have no Christian Watson. Romeo Dowds has just been named doubtful for the game. I mean, just because someone's doubtful doesn't mean they can't be in there. I think Jordan Love is going to have a very long day seeing it from the ground, as the Chicago Bears are going to take every advantage they can of a weak Green Bay offense for once, and not having to worry about Aaron Rodgers walking off the field saying, I still own you anymore. This is going to be a statement game for Justin Fields. I think the Chicago Bears are an underestimated team. I don't think they go to the playoffs, but they definitely win more than they did last year, and they play better. I have Chicago winning 28-7.
Dan, Bears, Packers.
No love to Jordan Love. You say Halpern. I don't know. To me, this seems like a trap game for the Bears, in my opinion. It'll be close enough, and they'll probably lose this game by 3. That's why I'm going with. I know it's bold given the situation in Green Bay, but look, the Bears are another up and coming team that needs some time to build too. So these are 2 building squads. I think the Bears in the long run will be in a better position at the end of the season. But week 1, I think a lot of people in Green Bay, they love the progress that Jordan Love's making. And I see it too. I really do believe that he's making good progress. He probably won't be the best quarterback in the league this year, next year, year after. But he'll get there eventually. He'll eventually get there at some point. So I had the Packers by 3 today. Down the road, I don't know what they're going to do. But, 2 teams we're unsure about. Yeah, I'm going with Packers to that.
I think the thing for the Bears, when they made the trade, when they traded the number one pick for to Carolina, and they get DJ Moore, and that's going to be so beneficial for Justin Fields because now we can see what he has in terms of weapons. In terms of Green Bay, I don't know what to expect. Jordan Love, we've seen sporadically. Mark, you said Christian Watson's out. Dobbs is doubtful. We're going to see probably a heavy dose of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I look at the other side of the ball for the Packers, and I go, that defense is a lot has a lot of talent. And last year, I thought they were one of the most disappointing position groups of anyone in the league. Rashawn Gary, those guys have to be bigger this year if the Packers want to surprise people and go to Aaron Rodgers and just stick their tongue out at him saying, we made the playoffs without you. So if they want to do that, the Packer defense has to be really good. As for the Bears, I would not be shocked if the Bears are a wild card team, but that's mainly because I'm not a believer in the NFC as a whole. So, should be an interesting one. The oldest rivalry in football gets renewed. Another old rivalry will be renewed when the Raiders go to Denver to play the Broncos. Mark, I'll word this way. Outside of Aaron Rodgers, I think the quarterback with the most pressure coming into this year is Russell Wilson. Because if Sean Payton can't fix him, nobody can fix him.
And you're 100% right there. Next, Aaron Rodgers. And with Daniel Jones being a very close right behind it. When Denver traded for Russell Wilson and saw what they got last year, the question is, was it a decline in Russell Wilson, or was the team just that bad? Now, Russell Wilson coming into the year, it's already missing his number one wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy, and that's a big problem because that means teams are going to play more tightly on Courtland Sutton, and which is going to force Denver to run the ball more. Not to take anything away from Javonte Williams, who is definitely a dynamic back who can not only receive, but make his way through holes. That being said, the Raiders are out to prove they can win. And whether Devontae Adams ends up staying with the Raiders or not after this year, or they let him go, do a mutual deal if they don't make the playoffs, whatever, I think he has one of the biggest years in football in a long time. I'm saying 120 plus receptions for Devontae Adams. I have the Raiders winning this one, not as a blowout, but 24-17.
How many games does Jimmy G play?
I can't answer that at the moment, but I'll think about it. I say he plays at least 2.
He plays at least 2. All right. Dan, the Broncos and the Raiders.
Broncos and Raiders. Another tight one, but I think Vegas comes out on top 30-24.
Man, Russell Wilson, I worded the question as I don't trust you, but I'm going to take Denver. I think Javonte Williams plays a part in this. There's something about the Raiders that I need to see it before I could say, you know what, I'm sold on Josh McDaniels and company. So, especially if Chandler Jones is not going to play based on the informative week he had with the organization. So, if you don't know, look it up. It's been a hectic week for Chandler Jones and the Raiders. All right. So, we close out the AFC West by talking about the Chargers, who host some team named the Miami Dolphins today. Mark, 2 teams in the AFC were hoping to make a playoff run, and 2 teams who made the playoffs last year.
So as I was talking to Mike last night, I was having a pretty big problem whether to start Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, because both of them have the same type of aspect and outlook on the season. I will not tell you who I picked because it'll upset Mike. This is a game today that can be one of the most exciting games on the docket for the entire day. You got Justin Herbert with that electric offense with you got Eckler, you got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams returns from injury, and you add in rookie Quentin Johnson. That is going to be fun to watch, as I expect Herbert to throw for more than 400 yards today. On the other side of the field, you got the Miami Dolphins with concussion riddled to attack. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. But Tua with his Tagovailoa, there you go, with his brain concussions. Tyreek Hill is said he is done after his stint in Miami. He will not be going to any other team. So I think he's going to play at a much higher level than he did even last year. Jalen Waddle being a good complement to him. And you got Rasheed Mostert. Now that they have a running game, this is going to be a very high scoring game, but very close. I have the Chargers winning 38-30.
Dan?
Which game is this again?
Chargers, Dolphins.
Chargers, Dolphins. I have the Chargers winning. Look, I think the Chargers, I said this before on Thursday. I think the Chargers are making a huge step this year. Herbert's going to be much better. I think the team is much better. The Dolphins, while I also believe they've gotten better, they'll be in a tight one in the AFC East. I don't love them that much right now. Not enough to win week one.
My thing on the Chargers is I think they have to do something this year.
Yes.
Because next year the Herbert extension kicks in, so they're going to have to fiddle around when it comes to the salary cap stuff. So this is probably the last year of some guys who are really talented on that team.
Yeah.
For the Dolphins, they picked up Tua's fifth-year option, so he'll play on that before they extend him. The offensive line worries me a lot. The absence of Jalen Ramsey worries me quite a bit. That being said, I'm going to homer it here. I'm going to take the Dolphins. The Chargers beat them last year, and the offense was inefficient. I think Mike McDaniel writes some of that back, and they find a way to win a competitive game against the Chargers. So I close out the AFC West. We can continue in the AFC East, where Mark's beloved Philadelphia Eagles travel to New England to play the Patriots. And his favorite guy, the hoodie.
Okay. So screw the Eagles. That's all I have to say about that. The New England Patriots. There is only one player I hope to do extremely well. I'm going to miss him in Dallas, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. I know he was injured over the years. I hope Belichick can just get him one more year where he can be the outstanding running back he is, and get a couple of touchdowns, go out a little bit on top. That being said, I have no confidence in the New England Patriots this year, as it's really a hodgepodge of players. Their defense has always been a little bit solid. And this kills me to say, it's like me ripping out my own heart and having it pump. Eagles win this game by a big margin, by over 20 points.
Do you think this is the last year of Mac in New England?
No.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off there, Dan.
Yeah, I'm with Mark. Mac will be there for a while longer. There's going to be a lot of distractions in this week one. Bill Belichick broke up with his longtime girlfriend. So that's obviously good. He's going to be a little out of it today for in that sort. But with that said, I think it's going to be they'll put up some points, but Philly's going to kick their ass, and I would expect that to happen. If you're the Eagles, you You made your Super Bowl run. You didn't win, but you made a run to the Super Bowl. You got to start off this year's week 1 with another big time statement win and show how powerful you are in the NFL.
Before you go on, I'm going to throw a question to you. Do you think the Eagles made a mistake in letting Miles Sanders go?
No.
Okay.
No. They've always used running back by committee, so I don't
Very
have
true.
an issue with letting Miles Sanders go.
Okay.
No. And it's not like he ran for miles and miles before his hamstring cramped up. Staying in the NFC, we'll go to Mark's other favorite team, the New York Giants, who will host the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. Mark talked about Daniel Jones earlier and how much pressure's on him. The guy on the other side, does he have a lot of pressure on himself too this year?
Yeah, Mike McCarthy has a big problem. He's going to be on the hot seat, but I know that's not who you were talking about, Mike. Obviously, we're talking about the guy who I have backed for the last 5+ years is Dak Prescott. Here's the thing. Last year, Prescott gets injured early in the first game of the season, misses the first 8. Cooper Rush keeps them in it. Dallas does end up going far, but everybody harped on Dak Prescott's 15 interceptions. Okay, that was the talk. It wasn't the talk that he was able to get the ball here and there. He broke a couple of records. No, they focused on the fact that he threw 15 interceptions, where there were quarterbacks who threw more than that. Dallas had one wide receiver last year, and that was CeeDee Lamb, and he had an amazing year. Now Dallas has 3 solid receivers in Gallup, Braden Cooks coming from Houston, Michael Gallup. You got Tony Pollard leading the way, and you got a committee of tight ends, which will be led by Jason Ferguson and backed up by most likely Shoemaker, and Hendershot will be 2 and 3. This game is not more about Dallas winning. It's to prove how bad the Giants really are. I don't care who's watching this. I don't care who I offend with this. The Giants blanking suck. The only name on that team is number 26, and that's Saquon Barkley. And they treated him like absolute crap by giving him the franchise tag and signing Daniel Jones to a 5-year deal when you're saying to your best player on your team, we're only going to keep you around 1 more year. And they fought to keep him on that tag as if they couldn't. They have no chance to tag him next year. Either the Giants are going to sign him to a long-term contract or he's just going to walk. The Giants win 6 games this entire year. Their defense is shoddy, and they have a very, very tough schedule. Needless to say, Dallas wins this game at the highest point score of the entire weekend, 56-10.
No, that's a bit of a stretch there. I don't know about 56-10.
Well, that's partially biased because I am a Dallas fan. But.
Yeah. But what I will say is, I think the Giants are going to win this game. However,
you do know I can come down and kick your butt, right?
Well, of course. By the way, if Saquon wants to stay in New York, he was a Jet fan growing up. So it's like,
oh my God, they just like Dalvin Cook. How many people do you want?
Well, but it's only Dalvin Cook's only a 1-year deal. I'm not saying now.
That's like Pete Alonso going from the Mets to the Yankees.
Yeah. No, I think the Giants are going to win this game. Long term, though, Dallas is going to be the better team. I 100% agree with that. I don't love Daniel Jones with that contract. Look, he had a lot of growth last year. He had a lot of balls, and he did a very good job. Very good job. But I'm not sold on him as a quarterback just yet to give him the massive deal that they gave him. I thought the deal should have gone to Saquon. I don't know what's with these running backs getting so disrespected, as if they're that obviously we all know they can be replaced, but at the same time, they are such a major factor, as we have seen with teams in the past that have won the Super Bowl. They ran the ball down. everyone's throats.
And
So
that's one of the big changes.
So I don't know why they're getting such disrespect. But yeah, to me, Daniel Jones should have been the one that was franchise tagged, and Saquon should have been the one that was signed. And I think the Giants have done a terrible job at showing their commitment to him when he's been by far their best player. Giants will win, though. I have confidence in that. But Dallas is a better team overall. They will win more games. They will make the playoffs. Heck, they might challenge the Eagles for the division. So,
Just to build on Dan for one thing, the Giants do have that aspect. Saquon Barkley, look, I respect the guy beyond means, and I've seen what he's done against Dallas over the years. He's had a very good games against Dallas. However, you got Sterling Shepard, who's returning from ACL tear. You got Darius Slayton, who's dealing with the hamstring injury. Darren Waller will be playing tonight. He's with a groin injury. None of them are at top speed. So you're going to put that crew up against Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore. Giants are going to have a hard time throwing the ball.
You also missed one name, Jalen Hyatt, the rookie out of Tennessee.
Nah.
I like the Cowboys. I think the Giants take a little bit of a step back. I don't trust Daniel Jones, as Mark alluded to. I also think the Giants won some games last year that out of kind of sheer luck. The Lamar game where he fumbled.
In spite of Daniel Jones.
Right. And then, they went for 2 against the Titans and got it. Ballsy stuff. I don't think that thing works this year. I don't think they're going to take teams by surprise.
Hey, a win is a win. A win is
know.
a win, as we all say, whether it was a deserving win or not.
Well, I'm just saying what certain teams could have taken them lightly.
Yeah. So.
And the Cowboys have beaten them. I think it's 10
straight games.
Yeah, I like the Cowboys, and I think they cover. I think this is something along the lines of 31-20. I think the Giants will get, keep it close for a bit, but Dak's got too many weapons, and the Giants are playing 2 rookie corners. So, all right, the other 2 games before we get into the Monday night game, which is pretty good. The tank for Caleb Williams is on because the Cardinals are playing the Commanders. And then we got an NFC West showdown of Rams and Seahawks.
Arizona's the one that's tanking.
Yes.
Let's be over that. Yes. Yeah,
Arizona is 100% tanking.
And Washington will show that. They'll easily beat them.
Washington, if you lose that game, Dan Snyder's buying the team back.
I'm looking for.
There's a lot of hype over here in DC. A lot of hype for this team. They better win in week 1 at home.
I'm excited to watch, mind you, yes, a Dallas fan, but I want to see what this combination of Sam Howell, Robinson, McLaurin, and Dotson can do. I think it's a very young, talented offense. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time for everybody to get on a perfect track, but put them up against Arizona tonight. They can make a statement tonight with a statement game.
Yeah. I also need to see some good things out of Chase Young. Chase Young is Mexico.
I don't think he's playing.
You don't think he's playing? Because
let me double check, but I believe I read he's out.
Well, the reason why is because he had said he would be ready.
Chase Young is out for game 1.
He's out for week 1. Okay. So eventually when he comes back, I would love to see more out of him.
Yes.
He's missed such a long time, and it's very clear the Commanders don't want to commit to him long term because of his ACL injury, which is a very, very unfortunate thing for him.
Yeah, here's the Adam Schefter tweet from yesterday. Chase Young ruled out for Washington's home opener, but he was cleared for contact in practice and is not expected to miss much time.
Yeah, we'll take week by week. Maybe a week 2 start will be good for him as well. But yeah, no, the Commanders have to win. They're talking up everything. New concourses, new suites, improved stadium infrastructure,
And
vendors,
God forbid the bathroom leaks out again.
new vendors. Well, that's the thing. They're trying to fix that.
Yeah.
They're fixing that.
Yeah, I know.
They put $40 million within the last 2 weeks to fix that stuff.
Thank God.
So yeah, no, everything about the Commanders, from the stadium to the team to the ownership, there's a lot of hype into it. They better win in front of that crowd.
All right. Mark, we got Rams, Seahawks, no Cooper Cup for the Rams.
Rams Seahawks. Missing Cooper Cup is the downfall for the Rams. I expect Cam Akers to have a good day. That being said, the Seattle Seahawks are pretty much the biggest underdog in football and underrated. They have one of the most electric teams, and they're not being featured because nobody gives the one person who deserves to be talked about, and that's Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith has a chance to make a run at the AFC MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. I'm sorry, AFC, NFC. I think Metcalf, Jackson, Smith, Nabula, and Lockett are going to have a great year. Kenny Walker's going to have a good year. Seattle to win this game, 35-10.
Yeah, no, and I've been saying Geno Smith's been a good quarterback since his rookie season, but yeah, no, he'll lead Seattle to victory. But the Rams are they'll put up some points there. I see them putting up at least 20 points in this game, but Seattle's gonna win. They'll cruise to victory. I'm not worried about that. They'll win this game.
Yeah, I like Seattle too. They have that trio of receivers, DK, Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigbo, they drafted in the first round. Geno, solid. And I've got worries about the Rams. No real running game, no Cooper Cup. I'm not sure about the offensive line. Matthew Stafford, if he gets hurt, it's all over. A team that I thought had some promise coming into the year, they're going to get tested early. All right. Then we got the Monday night game, Dan. The Jets and their Aaron Rodgers debut. Oh, wait, it's the other way around. Aaron Rodgers and his Jets debut. Taking on the Bills.
The Bills will win this game. I have a really bad feeling about this game right now against Buffalo. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think it'll be a close game. Ultimately speaking, when it comes down to it, Buffalo, as depleted as they are, as much as a rift Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen have, I think the experience factor with the team in general, because the Jets don't have much experience now with a lot of these guys. You can put Lazard or Cobb and AR all you want on this team. Put Cook on this team all you want. A lot of these players don't have the experience of winning, but the Bills do. So I think they'll come out on top. The Bills will. And I've been saying this since the schedule came out. If the Jets do not win on Monday night, the season is over. The Jets will have their confidence will be shot. Where are they going to win a game? First 6 weeks. You tell me.
Hold on, let me get the schedule up.
So if the Jets lose this game, the season to me is over.
So the Jets' first 6, we're talking about this week against Buffalo. Then they go to Dallas, New England, KC, Denver, Philly.
Where are they winning?
Okay.
Maybe Denver.
I think they beat New England too.
I don't know.
And KC.
I don't know. Bill Belichick, to me, finds ways to beat the Jets all the time. I have no confidence in that.
That's true. They won on a punt return last year.
I have no confidence. KC, I mean, maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Broncos.
Dan is a very passionate fan, as we can see, and he cares a lot about his team. I look at this game as probably one of the best games on the entire first week. You got the revamped Jets with Aaron Rodgers. He's got wide receivers to throw to, and I'm excited to watch Garrett Wilson this year. You got two great running backs. You got Dalvin Cook with the experience, and you got Breece Hall coming back from an ACL tear, which was really probably one of the hardest things the Jets had to deal with last year. I actually like the Jets in this first week. No offense to Nate Moser, but I don't like the dynamics that's going on in the field that's going on in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs now wanting to trade out. How is that going to affect his play? I like the Jets. The Jets defense was great last year. I have the Jets winning this one closely, 24-21. But this is a game in which the Jets make a statement saying, we're here. Now, the Jets next week will lose badly, but we're only talking about this week.
But I think the top three in the AFC East, the Jets, Bills, and Dolphins, I think they're going to all split with each other. And I think the Jets win at home. They gave Josh Allen some trouble last year defensively. So I like the Jets at home. I don't think there's a way they lose this game. But then I think you're right. If they find a way to lose this game, I think the fan base goes into a panic mode. But I also think that Robert Saleh is going to start feeling a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And he's going to be sweating.
I mean, he's under a lot of pressure because if this season becomes a disaster, he's fired. And guess what? Probably not getting another coaching job anywhere else.
No, he'd be at DC somewhere again.
Because how in the world can you mess up getting a Hall of Fame quarterback and not taking him to the playoffs? Can you imagine that scenario for the Jets?
Yeah, I agree with
that. And Robert Saleh played tough guy and all that stuff during Hard Knocks. He's not a tough guy. He is a fraud. He, to me, is a player's coach. He is friendly. He fucks around with them too much. He, to me, excuse my language, I apologize, but he, to me, is a player's coach that does not care about, being the tough ass human being. And which is a shame because, if you look at tough ass coaches, guess what? They win Super Bowls. Players, coaches, they don't win Super Bowls. We saw it with Rex. We see it now with Robert Saleh. He has to stop being nice and truly be a hard ass on these players because they need it. And they need it right now.
So you're saying Robert Saleh is no gas, all brakes.
Yeah, I mean, look, he can bring out that turmoil he wants. He is not, to me. He acts. It's an act basically. I don't trust him. I don't trust his clock management. I don't trust his coaching style. Look, there's a lot that Robert Saleh has to prove to me this season. All
right, those are the game schedules. We're going to close out with this. And Mark, this was your idea. You texted it to me. The one fantasy player of the day that everyone needs to have, whether it's a regular fantasy league or a daily fantasy league. So I'll start with you. Where would you go here?
Christian McCaffrey. There is no other top pick in my mind who is going to have 100 yards on the ground and 100 yards on the air.
Oh.
And at least one or two scores.
I'll take that on my team. Dan, who's a fantasy player that people must play today?
Fantasy player that people must play today. In my honest opinion, I think if we want to go running back, let's go running back. I think you got to play Saquon, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't disagree with that.
because look, he'll run the ball down Dallas' throats. I really believe that he'll be the guy that keeps the Giants in this game, and ultimately, in my opinion, win the game for Dallas.
I'm going to go with someone near and dear to Mark's heart as well, just like Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts. I think Philly comes in. They want to make a statement, and they're going into Foxborough. I know the Patriot defense can play well, but Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Goddard, the plethora of running backs, plus Jalen Hurts' legs. The other one I would say is Lamar. I think Lamar opens up that new contract real nice today against the Houston Texans.
Not to disagree with you on Lamar, but they got him receivers for a reason. They want him to stop running it so much.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
he'll get it through the air too. I'm not concerned with Odell, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. So we'll see. Is there anything else we wanted to cover?
I'm good, man.
We're set.
All right. Everyone, thank you for listening to the Week 1 edition of the Sunday Sideline Report here on the Sports Insanity Network YouTube channel. We'll be back every week discussing the week ahead. You can check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. And for the old ops guy, Mark Halpern, Danny Boy, Reginald, Dan Rines, I'm Mike Rifkin. Thank you for listening to the Sunday Sideline Report here on the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood and Kevin Millwood. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Enjoy the football.